Hello everyone, this is Brian Pex, and I have put together a video here with the topic being reducing noise in high ISO low light images. And a football game at a high school football field is a perfect example of one of these images. Okay, this picture here was taken a couple of weeks ago at a football game. The only thing that I've done to this is cropped it down so it's the right size that I want. And it was 1/800th of a second, f2.8, ISO 9000. If you look into the dark areas up here, or just at the image in general up close, you're going to notice a lot of noise, a lot of luminance noise up there and throughout the entire image. And we're going to work on getting rid of that. I'm going to do it as quick as possible here. So first things first, I have a X-Rite color checker passport, so I have a profile set up to get correct colors, and that's what I like to start off by doing before I touch anything. I'm going to the basic panel. I'm going to now check the white balance. It's pretty good because I try to use live view while I'm there and look at the field, especially in a situation like this where the lighting isn't going to change. That works very well, and you can see right on the LCD in what's in front of you using the Kelvin adjustment, and then just set it and forget it and you should be good to go. But let's just see, could be a little bit of a cast here, a little bit of a blue cast. There we go, that's a little better. Alright, anyway, first of all, looking at a histogram, the exposure is pretty good considering it's a night football game. What I'm going to do here is go down and reduce the highlights because it seems to bring back some of the detail in the white uniforms usually. Just a little bit. Shadows I'm going to leave alone, or I actually might bring that up just a tad. Let's see. Now you got to be careful because this will obviously bring in even more noise. I'll go up just a little bit just because this area here in the darker uniform, get back a little bit of detail there. Whites I'll leave alone, and blacks I will reduce because that is the main problem in a lot of these images, especially this big black bar up here. It has a bunch of noise, so reducing this usually cleans it up before we even put any noise reduction in. Or it appears to clean it just because it's getting rid of a lot of that ugliness up there. Okay, clarity I'm going to leave alone right now. Vibrance, color's pretty good, so I'm just going to use the up arrow. Go up a little bit, maybe to plus 13. Whatever. Saturation plus 2 or 3. Maybe plus 2. That doesn't matter anyway. I'm not really concerned with that right now. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to get this image, right click it, and create a virtual copy. And this is going to give us a copy of the image and everything we've done to it so far. And the only thing that I'm going to do different with this image is I'm going to go to the detail panel, get the noise reduction, the luminance slider, and crank it all the way up to 100%. And that will completely eliminate all noise in this image, and it will make it look like a painting because it's just too waxy looking, very clean, but we're losing all that detail. But that's okay because that's what Photoshop is for. Now we're going to highlight both of these by shift clicking on the original image that we just made a copy of. Right click and edit in, and then go into Photoshop, open as layers in Photoshop. And what that will do is it will allow us to put the noise reduction layer right on top of the other layer, and then we can mask away the noise reduction in the areas that we want the detail to be shown. What I normally would do is I'll show you what I normally would do. This actually came out the wrong way. Let me put the noise reduction on top. Let's say if I didn't have that layer, I would just make a duplicate copy, of the, let me name these. This one's going to be called base, and this other one is going to be called noise reduction, or noise RED. Close enough. Okay. What I would normally do is I would take this bottom layer, Command J, make a copy, and then I would use a filter such as Topaz Denoise, which works exceptionally well. But just in case you don't have that, I'm going to be using And all I use it for this for is just to do that, to make standard, I mean a very basic adjustment by sliding up the noise reduction. I don't use any of the detail sliders or anything like that when I'm doing this. But this is just to show you the difference between Lightroom and Topaz, which there really isn't any when you're doing it like this, because it's a very basic edit. Let me just zoom in right here. As you can see, it completely eliminated the noise. Now let's look at Lightroom's noise reduction is there, and then Topaz is here. So you're essentially getting the same result. Alright, so anyway, I am going to get rid of that Topaz copy, and we're going to work with just the Lightroom and Photoshop layers in Photoshop. Okay, so now what we want to do, let me get rid of this. There we go. Alright, now we're going to go. Okay, so now a simple way to bring back the detail in the subjects, which here are the players, would be to simply create a white layer mask as such, and using a black brush by hitting the B tool and then hitting the make sure you have foreground color over here is black. All you have to do is go in where the players here are, and I'll use a 70% brush right now, and I'm just going to zoom in here so you can see a little bit of detail. Move over here, and now with that brush I'm going to just paint that black paint on the white mask, and that will bring back the detail in the player's face, on his hand, and the football, and anything else that I happen to put the brush over. As you can see, or maybe you can't see, depending on the video compression here. Let's see, like his arm here, for example. As a matter of fact, I'm going to change the brush to 100% so you can really see what I'm doing here. This arm here, that's before. I just went Control Z back, and now that's after. You can see there's more detail being brought back. Always use spacebar to drag around while you're zoomed in. And this is bringing back nice detail to the uniform, to the player. We'll go over to the other player, zoom out a little bit here, do the same thing with the brush tool. Oops. And it does a very good job of masking out that noise reduction, because we've got 100% black paint, and that is taking the reduction right out. And you'll notice it especially here where there's detail, like on this back of this shirt, where these ventilation holes, or whatever you want to call them, are on the shirt. You can see them come back in, and that's bringing in a lot of detail. But unfortunately, under here you're also seeing a lot of noise come back in. So if you don't want that, just hit X to flop your paintbrush, and you can bring it right back in with the white brush. Oh, that's a little bit strong, so let's go to 50%, and it'll mask some of it out anyway. And just go back and forth the image with black paint, and by the end of it you'll have a nice sharp image with no noise and complete details for the players. The problem is your mask isn't very good. That's what it looks like. So what if you wanted to make some further adjustments to the players? Well, you really can't with that. So I'm going to delete this mask. That's a crude way of doing it, and it works for the most part effectively. But if you want to get a little bit more technical here, here's what we can do. We can now use one of the most powerful features in Photoshop, and that is the color range tool. So you can go up here to select and select color range, or use the shortcut. And this is the interface for color range. I'm not going to go into a full explanation of how the color range tool works, but the default fuzziness value is 40, and you have these different buttons up here. For example, localize color clusters. It will keep them in smaller areas unless you hold down the shift key while clicking, because then it will keep adding to the selection. And that's what I'm going to do here for this. that wasn't selected, it would select those tonal ranges for the entire image. And those color and tonal ranges for the entire image, but that's not what we want for this right now. So I'm going to use the color range tool with that localized color clusters. I'm going to go around shift clicking and dragging. Whoops, what happened there? Photoshop just went screwy on me. Alright, we're just going to keep selecting. Interested in the darker uniform player right now. And that should be pretty good. Now I'm going to expand this range here a little bit. There we go. And the fuzziness, let's see if we raise that a little bit. Okay, so let's lower that range a little bit. For some reason it doesn't want to go past 40, the fuzziness value. Never seen that, but it's probably because I'm making a video why it's doing that. Anyway, we're going to hit OK, and that's what we have. We're going to go down to in the channels pane, we're going to add this selection and create a channel. And that's our first alpha channel. I'm going to hit Command D to deselect. And now what I'm going to do here using a paintbrush at 100%, I'm going to go to the overlay paint mode. There's a shortcut for that too. It would be Shift, Option, and O. And I'm going to use the black paintbrush, and all these gray areas will turn black without me having to worry about affecting the helmet because it's white, which is a nice thing. And then all these gray areas in here, I'm going to flop the paint, make it white, and it's going to select all that even more without me having to worry about going outside the lines, which is very nice. And I can just keep going over it, lifting the... I'm using a Wacom stylus. I can keep lifting it off the pad more and more. And then if I really just want to color in those colors, I'll just go to normal paint mode here. And with a white brush, just completely fill them in. And the football too. Okay, and that's one of our players. How about the other guy? Alright, well, we're going to go back over to the color range tool. And we're going to select that again. This time we're going to select him. We're going to shift click and go around. Now obviously you wouldn't do this for every sports photo. It would take you way too long. Especially when Photoshop is in one of its moods like it seems to be in right now. Let me move this color range box out of the way a little bit. Yep, Photoshop is definitely on the fritz tonight. But bear with me here, I'm almost done here. Okay, now we'll use our range tool, go up a little bit. And that's good. Oops, I went a little too high up top. That's alright, we're going to hit OK, and that's our selection. And then we're going to go down to the create selection again. Create channel from the selection. And deselect. And now, once again, with the paintbrush, with a black brush, we're going to go to overlay paint mode, which is Shift, Option, or Alt, O. And then we're going to brush out this stuff up here that we definitely do not want to be black. To be white, to be selected. Okay, now we're going to flop the paint again by hitting X, and everything else we want here to be selected. The beauty of the overlay paint mode is you don't have to worry about going outside the boxes. If it's black or white, it will not accept that color. The opposite. Gray, that's a different story. When it's gray like that, you just have to go over it a few times like this, and it'll eventually will fill it in. Oops, I didn't want to go up there. Alright, so that's good. And we're done. But now we have two different channels. How do we combine them? That's quite simple. All you need to do is command click one of them, go to the other one, and then hit command and shift, click, and then hit the create channel again. Now you have both of those channels together. And the other ones, we can just get rid of them. Two alpha channels that we created, and we're left with this one. Alright, now all we need to do is go to our noise reduction layer, command click onto that alpha channel, and apply the layer mask. And now we have everything's backwards because we have our noise reduction is on our players and not the pot that we want to be reduced. But that's easily fixed by hitting Command I or Control I to invert the mask. And now we have it perfectly the way we want it. We have a completely noise-free background, and we have all the detail in our players that we want. And as an added bonus, we now have a selection that we can single out our players. So let's say if I wanted to add a little bit of contrast to the players, I would simply command click this mask over here, or the channel that we made, and then add, let's say, a levels command, a levels adjustment layer. Remember, we would have to invert that mask so that the players are white, therefore selected. And now we can make these guys pop off the page a little more by adding a little bit of contrast like that. And we can play with the gray slider. Whatever you want to do, it's there because now we have a nice selection of the two players. And now we have a beautifully clean background and a nicely detailed foreground or subjects in this image. And it's the best of both worlds. Now to get back to Lightroom, I'm just going to Shift Command E, flatten these layers, and then hit Command S to go right back into Lightroom. Command W to close that image out, and then when we go back to Lightroom, there we have a brand new image ready to be exported and for the world to love. And don't forget, if you wanted to get rid of some of the noise in the other parts of the image, you would just obviously mask that out before you export it. But that is a very, very, very effective way to reduce noise in Photoshop and Lightroom combined. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a wonderful day and happy shooting.